On this week's episode, is it time to crown Gamescom as number one? Our recap of summer television and our countdown of the top 200 video games begins. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great stuff as we bring you the best in pop culture news and trends, and as we bring you the best in news and trends in pop culture twice a week. Well, it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is our countdown guru of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out everything that's going on today at popculturecosmos.com, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, and of course on social media at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. All right, another great weekend, another great weekend in the books, and another great week ahead of us as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about Gamescom. This has become a lot bigger than it has in the past few years. So I'm excited to see what kind of stuff we're going to get coming out of this.
Absolutely. Myself as well. It's going to be a big week for Gamescom because it is, well, actually at this point in time, looking more and more like it will soon be the number, if it's not already, of course, if it's not already, the number one show as far as for video game platform and the video game industry as a whole. It is, is it now at the point where it's going to surpass E3? We're going to talk about that here coming up in a sec. Plus also as well, Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. She's going to recap the broadcast networks when it comes to what was good and what was not so good about summer television. And on the back end of the show, we're going to break down the back end of the top 200 video games with our first 10 selections that actually you people that you fans out there chose as far as for the top 200 of all time. We're going to break down numbers 200 to 191 coming up here on the back end of the show as well. But first, my friend, before we get into Gamescom, I want to ask you real quick, Good Boys, are you surprised it actually did as well as it did, because it is the first R-rated comedy in over 3 years to actually make it to number one on the domestic charts with a little over 20 million this weekend? Not a big haul, mind you, and it will probably barely make a profit when all is said and done, but at least it's a sign that some people want to actually still see an R-rated comedy that's not named Deadpool.
Yeah, I don't know. We're starting to see like a smaller resurgence of these types of films, and I'm stoked to see that this movie is doing well. I from what I understand, the reviews I've read, it seems to have a little more heart than I gave it credit for, because it is a Seth Rogen film. But I would hope. I mean, it'd be cool to see more stuff like this, because as we talked about before, like everyone's so afraid to create things that push the boundaries. That's why I admire Kevin Smith so much, is because he, in a time where people are afraid to make things that might offend people, Kevin Smith always pushes the envelope. And it sounds like that's what they're doing with The Boys, but they're doing it in a way that still has heart, which sounds like something I might be interested in.
Oh, you mean with The Good Boys? Because you can't mix up The Good Boys and The Boys.
Yeah, sorry. With the Good Boys. I actually just finished The Boys. We'll have to talk about that sometime. But yeah.
We will talk about it on Friday's show. How about that for you? But I will say this because I've still got a lot to say when it comes to The Boys. But I will say that The Good Boys is another project that's helmed by, in fact, The Boys and The Good Boys are both Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen properties. They're both behind these successful entities that's out there. I mean, again, when all is said and done, it will probably only make a minimal profit, maybe even a little bit more, but it'll only make a small profit because of the fact that with the August, and it's getting to the later point of the year, and it is at this point in time of the year, it's not going to have real fan base or a strong connection, and week after week of hitting on high numbers. But again, it did much better than expected. It did about $20 million here at the domestic box office. So Good Boys is going to go ahead and be something that, at least for a little while, will be something that those fans of R-rated comedies can look towards to. I still think it's probably not going to be on my, it's probably not going to beat out another R-rated comedy this year, Booksmart. I'll have to check in with you on our best of list to let you know for sure coming up later this year. But it is still a decent sign that it's still a good sign that there's still room for some R-rated comedies, because after the not so domestic success of Booksmart at theaters, it's kind of nice to see an R-rated comedy just out of the norm once again be at the top of the pack. But all that aside, my friend, and there's still a lot of movie talk that's out there. And if you want the latest movie box office updates, you just got to check out our site at Pop Culture Cosmos. Check out our Facebook page at Pop Culture Cosmos, and you'll get the latest information on who was good, who did well, and who did not so well when it came to this weekend at the box office. But my friend, coming up this week, I thought it was this weekend, but actually it's this week. It is one of the premier events in all of video games. It has been now for a few years, and it's Gamescom in Europe, in Germany, and a lot of people are going to. It's going to probably have close to 200,000 people that are attending. It's got a lot of people looking forward to it. I want to ask you, my friend, it is now coming to the point in time where we've got to ask ourselves, much to my chagrin, after my long years associated with E3, but after the E3 leak after the latest scandal at E3, I'm not sure I'm as high on E3 as I once was. But I will ask you this, my friend, with Sony and others pulling out of E3 this year, and Gamescom making a big push with not only another Microsoft conference that's going to be there, a Nintendo indie conference, a Nintendo press conference that's also going to be there, focusing on indie content. Google Stadia is going to have a press conference there, but they're also going to do an opening night showcase with your friend and mine, Jeff Keighley. Okay, maybe he's not, but you got to give him props for scoring this gig as well. He's going to be having an opening night showcase, the first of its kind at Gamescom, debuting a lot of stuff and also showcasing a lot of video games coming this fall, and maybe possibly even debuting a lot of other games as well. I got to ask you, my friend, is Gamescom primed to become the number one entity, the number one showcase in the video game industry?
I mean, it's starting to look that way, especially if you think about Sony's has a press conference. You were saying Nintendo, Xbox, Stadia, like they've never done that at Gamescom. They've shown up, they've had a presence there, and they've showed off a few things, but they've never had an actual conference like this. So it's starting to look that way. And Gamescom is already like, there more indie developers show up at these conferences than E3 these days. So I would already say that Gamescom is really big, but if you get the support of the big 3 or 4 out there, this could turn into something that could easily overshadow E3. And it makes me wonder, especially like with the new consoles coming out next year, where are those announcements going to take place?
That could very well be the case, and there'll be a lot bigger highlight for next year when the new consoles come out. Because I have a feeling if they come out in the fall, there could be a last-minute presentation at Gamescom next year for not only one, but both of the expected new consoles from Sony and Microsoft that could get some major highlights at next year's Gamescom, plus a lot of other new game showcases as well alongside with that. So that could be very important. I think next year, is going to be the key, whether or not E3 or Gamescom comes out on top, because which show will these major companies, not only the console publishers like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, but also a lot of these major publishers and the indie publishers as well. Let's not forget that a lot of the big reason you were talking about that developers have an easier access to Gamescom is because there's a lot of smaller there's a lot of smaller European indie and also larger publishers that are closer in proximity to Gamescom, and it might be a lot easier for them to be there. Plus, the fact is that while E3 gets 50, 60,000 people, even now that they've opened it to the public, you're still talking 3 times the number of individuals that could try out your product at Gamescom on the show floor of Gamescom, and that is a big number to look at. So we're going to have to gauge this week's reception. We're going to have to gauge this week's initial this week's initial buy-in, initial showcase on social media. What is the reception going to be like for the opening night showcase with Jeff Keighley? Plus also as well, how elaborate will those 3 press conferences be? And will it be enough to get Sony into the ballpark next year for a showcase of their own, either at E3 or at Gamescom? Now, if they do one or the other, that also could tip the scales as well. So that's something that we have to think about there. But a lot of big name games are going to be showcasing their stuff at Gamescom, including Borderlands 3, Cyberpunk 2077, and more. I want to hear your thoughts. This week is going to probably show off a lot of games that you will be interested in, my friend. So what are you looking forward to seeing more of when it comes to Gamescom this week?
I do want to see more of the EA's Star Wars game, Fallen Order. Is that what it's called?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, I want to see more of that. I'm honestly I'm hopeful that we're going to see more from Gears 5, so that they haven't done a great job of marketing that, but I'm also hopeful for some more Halo footage. Show me in-game footage, show me some gameplay. I want to, that was one of my big complaints coming out of E3 is that they didn't really show enough of that. So I would really like to see that. And also I'd like to see some more things running on the Stadia, just so I have a better idea if that's something that I would ever want to invest in. What are you looking forward to anything though?
Well, when you talk about Halo, I'm not sure they're going to showcase anything from Halo just yet. I think they may, since that is going to be a 2020 release and not a 2019 release, they may hold off on that to showcase Gears 5 even more, because that is coming out next month. But Borderlands 3, I think, is a lot of is on a lot of people's minds. So they want to see a lot of stuff they want to see a lot more from that as it gets closer to that release date. Plus, also, like you said, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Hopefully, EA will showcase a lot of that, because that is probably the last major venue for EA to showcase Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I know that's something that's very important to them. Call of Duty, the latest reiteration of Modern Warfare. I think a lot of people want to see more of what's going on with that game, and especially the multiplayer end of it. But for me, I think I want to see more of Cyberpunk 2077, because they have advertised itself as being at Gamescom. So I want to see more of that game and how it fits into a bigger video game narrative structure coming out when it comes out next year. Plus Death Stranding. I know Death Stranding, Hideo Kojima will be there at Gamescom showcasing the latest strange but attractive footage that is going to be coming for Death Stranding when it comes out in 2020. So I'm interested to see that as well.
Death Stranding that's actually the one that's coming out first, right? Or in November 10th?
No, Death Stranding is coming out next year.
Next year, okay. But yeah, I mean, Death Stranding looks cool, because it'd be cool to see more story play of that. Cyberpunk's definitely going to be there. They've made that announcement. I did not know this, but Cyberpunk is actually based off of a tabletop game.
You're right. Hey, I'm sorry. I have to scratch that out, my friend. You are right. November 8th, 2019. It is coming out as November 8th, 2019. So
Okay,
scratch
yeah,
my
I thought it was soon. But yeah, man, there's a lot of cool stuff, and the scope of the announcements I think is going to decide like how much these companies are going to invest in Gamescom next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like this will be a key moment for Gamescom to showcase itself as the premier video gaming event of the industry, and we'll have to wait and see if that pans out. Because if it does become a showcase and a bigger than life event that could surpass E3, the days of E3 being on top of the days of being E3 the king of the hill might soon be over. And that would be a shame for us here, as you and I both have attended E3. But you know what? If that's the case, that's got to be the case. I mean, back in the day, it was the Tokyo Game Show for many years being the showcase for the video game industry, and that hit on hard times for many years until in recent times it's had a resurgence. So this could be the point in time where E3, after after many years on top, it might be on the verge of succeeding to Gamescom as the number one entity in the world of video games. What are your thoughts out there on Gamescom this week? Is there any games that you're looking forward to with Death Stranding, Gears 5, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Borderlands 3 all around the corner? Is there any games that you're eagerly anticipating taking a look at when it comes to any footage that's shown at Gamescom 2019? Is there anything else that you want to really take a look at? Either the stuff that either the press conferences from Microsoft, Nintendo, or the better look at games, or a better look from Google Stadia, because hopefully this week at Gamescom, Google will really give us a good idea of exactly the platform it is and exactly how it's going to work and all the games that are going to be attached to it. Let us know your thoughts on Gamescom this week and what you're excited for. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, YouTube. It's on Facebook, Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, coming up next, Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. She's going to weigh in with her thoughts on what was good, on what went good, and what went bad with summer television, coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. All right, and we're back to close out the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. If you need a listing of where we're at, because we're being played all around the world, 7 days a week on radio stations all over, please check out our listings today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. In fact, you know what? I want to give our shout out to our good friends in Australia at Variety Radio Ipswich. I cannot thank them enough for playing our show each week, the Pop Culture Cosmos, and the great fans of Variety Radio Ipswich for checking it out. Plus, we're also on so many different podcast outlets. I'll tell you what, when our podcast goes up and it gets played all over and so many people get a chance to listen to it, it is just so humbling, and we truly appreciate it, including our great friends and great supporters for many years now at the Tangent Bound Network. I cannot thank enough Mark and the great folks at the Tangent Bound Network for playing our show each and every week. So we do, it just is so incredible, and I cannot thank them enough for doing so. My friend, I just wanted to ask real quick your thoughts on the sales so far for Congratulations You Suck. It's sold out on Amazon, but it's still available at many other outlets.
Sorry. Amazon's supposed to be getting more in stock here soon too. You can buy it now and they will ship it to you within a week. They're just waiting on them to come in. I'm super grateful that it's doing so well. I got some pretty cool reviews so far, and I still got to do a lot of work in terms of marketing. But if you guys pick up the book and you like it, please tell your friends about it, and I would be incredibly appreciative of it. And any feedback you have for me, you can just shoot me a DM through Pop Culture Cosmos or Humanica Media, or however you want to do it.
That's again, congratulations, you suck. It is like you said, if you order it on Amazon.com, it'll be available in about a week to 10 days. Plus, also as well, you can get it on Kindle for a great price at $2.99, the Nook at $2.99, and Barnes and Noble, either BarnesandNoble.com or go to your local Barnes and Noble and ask for it, and they'll send a hard copy to you at Barnes and Noble. Well, my friend, I want to thank first off Jessica Box from the TVRatingsGuide.com for being on the show today. She's also going to be on our Friday show talking about why HBO's The Succession, which I've seen now. Why is it such a a booming hit for HBO? Why is it getting such an audience? After it was after being a little bit on the quiet side this time last year. People weren't talking about as much. People are certainly talking about it now, and why is HBO Succession becoming such a big hit? Plus all the stuff, plus all the news and updates from what happened this week, upcoming at Gamescom 2019. We'll recap it for you on Friday's show, the PCC Multiverse. Well, my friend, before we head on out, I want to give everybody a heads up. If they have not checked it out already on popculturecosmos.com or popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, it's our top 200 video games of all time. We're still kind of revamping how it's going to look and how you're going to be able to access. We'll be hopefully taking care of that this week. But I want to break down, first off, my friend, the back end of the list, and that's going to start off with numbers 200 to 191. So your thoughts on number 200, real quick. Time Crisis and Vigilante 8. It was a tie. Time Crisis and Vigilante 8.
Okay, so I had only ever played Vigilante 8 once, and I remember it being fun. I remember having like a Twisted Metal vibe to it. What I do have a lot of experience with is Time Crisis. So I used to go to they had these things called power stations down here. You could go on their big arcades and you just put money on your cards and swipe them. You could play Time Crisis, Jurassic Park, stuff like that. But Time Crisis always had a good time playing. There's something about being able to play a rail shooter with your friends, and it wasn't incredibly difficult, and you could spend a fair amount of quarters or power cards on it, whatever it was. But it was always, for Time Crisis, it was always about getting that high score with me. So that was always, Time Crisis is a very special place in my heart. What are your experiences with it?
My experience with it was more with Time Crisis, like you said, than Vigilante 8. I did play Vigilante 8, and yes, as well, I got that Twisted Metal type vibe. It's a really, really kind of fun post-apocalyptic type, just crash demolition derby type game with weapons and the whole nine yards. But with Time Crisis, as they usually hear as I walked by the arcade there back in the day. It is that the rail shooter deluxe. It was one of the best rail shooter experiences that I've ever had. It's just so much fun. Time Crisis. And I'd like to see it revived in some form or fashion. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to do that since it was a rail shooter. Those are really hard to replicate, but I would like to see Time Crisis revived in some form, in some fashion at some point in time. Number 199, you know, as a fan of RPGs and whatnot, I tell you what, RPGs and the like, Tales of Grace's F, it's not that well known or well remembered, but I think it is well deserving on this list at 199.
Sorry, I was trying to get the page back up here. So Tales of Grace takes place in the Tales universe, and there's a whole lot of other Tales games, Tales of Vesperia, Tales of I wouldn't even be able to tell you the name of them. I've never gotten into these. As if you've ever listened to Super BS Gamescast, we never really had great things to say about the Tales series. They do have a fan base, as we can see here, and people are playing them. It's something I might be interested in playing further on down the line. It's just not something I'm really in a hurry to be trying right now. And I know this one's on PS3. Did you ever play this one?
No, I never got the chance to. I know it was something when I was at the when I was running the video game store. Tales did come up from time to time as one of the more recognized series that specific game in the series was not as talked about as much, but it's no less a part of the Tales series that should be considered one of the better series, or one of the better RPG series in video games. Coming up at 198, my friend, I'll tell you what, crazy, crazy, crazy hard is Super Meat Boy, and this was one of the first games to come out earlier this decade that really brought back difficult games back into the forefront of video games.
This was one of those games made on Java, if I remember correctly? Yeah. So I do remember Super Meat Boy. I never played it, but I don't know. It seems to be a video game that would be based on something from Adult Swim, and it's the story, like reading the synopsis right now is intriguing enough for me to maybe want to try it. It is on Nintendo Switch, so I might be checking that out here soon. But from what I understand, it is incredibly difficult. And if you've read my review for N++, like I have a very short fuse when it comes to games like that.
So raise up your blood pressure with Super Meat Boy, but it is on our list at number 198. Number 197 through 195, we've got Super Ghouls and Ghosts. We've also got Sonic and Knuckles, and we've got Sinistar. For me, Sinistar is the one that stands out because, boy, oh my goodness, when you're playing and Sinistar just goes off and whatnot, I just thought that was so cool. The way the way it really got progressively harder as you continued with the game. Sonic and Knuckles, it's not one of the highest. It's not obviously Sonic the Hedgehog, but still it stands out on its own. And Super Ghouls and Ghosts as the sequel to as the third game as the third entry in the Ghouls and Goblins series, it's something a lot of people still have fond memories for. What number 194, River City Ransom? I mean that takes you on the way back as far as the beat 'em ups is concerned, but it's number 193 I want to talk about with Psychonauts, a game that has been so beloved, was so under the radar at the time of its release, that was one of these cult hits that not a lot of people bought, but everybody seemed to have played and everybody seemed to have loved. Landing at 193 seems a little bit low. A little bit low on the list for me. I thought it would be much higher because it was just so well thought of. And when Psychonauts 2 comes out, there'll probably be a rebirth there'll probably be a rebirth of interest in Psychonauts again.
Well, it's impressive that it made the list, though, because if you go down the full scope of what we have here, there's a lot of some stuff that's new, but there's a lot of like really old retro stuff. So I mean, and it also if you look at our audiences too, like we have hardcore gamer fans who really like the old arcade games and stuff. So the fact that Psychonauts made the list is impressive in itself. This is one of those ones I was always on the fence about playing, never got a chance to play it. But if there was a remaster, or it was able to, if it's available on another platform, it's something I might be interested in checking out. The trailer for Psychonauts 2 looks cool, and I know that people are excited about it, but who knows, man? It's a disconnect between the first game and the sequel, and who knows what that might lead to.
At number 192 is another great game. It's Portal 2, which was a great follow-up to the surprise hit out of the Orange Box conglomerate of 3 great games. Portal 2 was a great sequel in and of itself and is very well thought of as a puzzle game. Did you get a chance to play Portal 2?
I did. Portal 2 is one of those games that I could play for a very, very long time. And I like how it is linked to the Half-Life series, but it's not really something that you have to play Half-Life to play it. Do you know if they're ever going to be working on another one, or is Valve just all about Steam these days?
Valve is all about Steam. I mean, get in line. People want a Half-Life Episode 3. They also want, like me, I want a Left 4 Dead 3. So, yeah, get in line with that game. Team Fortress, another Team Fortress. Yeah, the list is on and on and on of games people want to see Steam make. But at this time, at games they want Valve to make. But at this point in time, it's all about Steam. So and I don't see any of these games coming out anytime soon. So don't hold your breath. But at 191 to count down to finish off our list for today is the legend itself, Pac-Man. My goodness, it's still very well thought of by our folks out there. I thought it would place lower because of its historical value and the fact that it created such a just a movement back in the early 80s. Pac-Man Fever and the like, a number one hit song, a cartoon series, spawned off many sequels, and is still well thought of today. In fact, you can go into many arcades or pizza parlors or anything of that nature today, and you can still see variations of the Pac-Man theme still going on at this point in time. So Pac-Man, a Hall of Fame video game, is at 191.
If you go into Dave & Buster's, you can actually play Pac-Man on a giant screen, and they have different versions of it where you can play on the big screen or you can play it at a table against your friends like you used to be able to back in the arcade days. But I really love the fact that Pac-Man has stayed alive, and they've tried various ways of reinventing it, right? Remember the Pac-Man RPG that came out, and they did like a Pac-Man side-scroller, tried to make it more like Sonic. This is just, it's one of those things, like, you don't mess with perfection. Like, Pac-Man is a classic game at heart, and there are still people who spend hours at the arcade, if you live around an arcade, playing it.
That's right. There are a lot of people playing it, and I'm tell you what, it's just a great thing to see that Pac-Man, even after all these years, is still is still well known and well beloved within today's society, and will always be a revered member of pop culture. Well, if you want to check out our list, even before we continue to break down our top 200 video games of all time, you can always check out our list today at popculturecosmos.com and popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Hopefully in the future, we'll get a chance as well to talk, to get everybody out there to start voting on a top album, a top movie, and a top television show of all time as well. So Josh, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes, I do. Like I said before, I do want to talk about The Boys, do a little post-mortem on that show. I got some thoughts.
You got some thoughts on that? I do as well. I'll tell you what, Friday's show, the PC Multiverse, we'll talk about The Boys and recap Gamescom as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Cheryl Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.